Loved the song and loved that singer. Wow, we are so blessed. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Dan. And Happy New Year, Unity on the Bay. Here we go again. Stepping into the bright new horizon of mystery and possibilities that are before our eyes, some of which we're quite aware of, but I guarantee you the vast majority of them, we have no idea what's coming. And that's part of the beauty of stepping into the spiritual way of life, is realizing that you may not know what every turn in life is going to bring. You may not be aware of what every new year or new day is going to bring into your life, but you can always rest in the certainty that you are guided, protected, and orchestrated by the presence and the power of God. And really, you don't need to know anything more than that. Because if you know that and you know God as greatness and goodness, then you realize your every step is being synchronized in the universal flow of life that is always working on behalf of your good and the good of those you love and the good of the whole human race and the greater good of everything that's happening in this cosmos, whether we're aware of it or not. The question that I have as I walk into this New Year experience is, what is the difference really between a new year and a new day? What's the difference? Well, you say, there's a lot of difference. There's the passing of time, and it takes a lot longer for a year to pass than a day, right? However, remember that one of the things we come to realize as we move through this spiritual journey called life is that things like time and space are ultimately illusory in nature. Time is an invention, if you will, of the mind of man or the mind of woman. So I'm going to propose to you this morning that there really isn't any difference between a day and a year, except what happens in terms of the way you frame it in your own mind. And this morning I want us to open up to the possibility. Let me just ask you, did any of you ever see the Star Trek series where I believe it was Leonard Nimoy, who in like the period of about 20 minutes in one episode, he lives an entire lifetime? Did you see that one? Do you remember it? Nobody saw that one but me? You saw it? Okay. Well, sometimes I wonder, Truly, sometimes I do. But I'm glad at least a few of you did see that, because it was really amazing that just the possibility in somebody's scheme of time and space that an entire lifetime could be lived in a day. An entire lifetime could be lived in the 90 minutes that we actually spend together. If you open your mind and move past the confines of the labels of time and space that you yourself have allowed to be imposed upon you, you realize that each and every moment of your existence is, in fact, more than a lifetime. It's more than a lifetime. Open yourself up to the idea that you could live many lifetimes in a moment. You say, well, he really did lose his mind while he was up there in that cold weather. Not so, not so. I just have come to believe that there is really no difference ultimately in the divine scheme of things between a moment, a second, an hour, a day, a month, and a year. These are just labels that we have placed on our experience of the passing of time. As a lot of you know, I was up north, and about the only thing that could drive me into those wickedly cold temperatures, although they did calm down a bit while Mom and I were up there, the only thing that could really call me up there would be something as profound to me as the experience of family, which, as most of you know, really expanded for me in the last 3 years, because 3 years ago my first grandchild, Ashlyn, was born. So I got to spend a lot of time with this wonderful treasure. And she is still at the point where she hasn't been conditioned so much by the world and human conditioning that there's a freshness about her. And I'm always telling you and telling myself how important it is, the first experience that we have when we wake up, when our eyes open in the morning. Because your mind at that point, your consciousness is wide open. It's been said that those first few moments upon waking are the moments when you can go deepest into your consciousness, because the unconscious and the conscious haven't really clearly established their delineation yet. So it's a wonderful time. Whatever you experience first thing when you awaken in the morning can be the most profound thing that happens to you all day. So I was actually sleeping on the sofa one of these evenings when I was up in Kansas City, Missouri, and the first experience I had when I woke up, and it may actually have been the most profound experience to date that I've ever had upon waking was, I don't know exactly what woke me up. I presume it was Ashlyn in some way. But I opened my eyes, and her 3-year-old face was staring right into my eyes. She had come up to the side of the sofa, and she said this to me. She said, "Grandpa." And I immediately, woke up fully at that moment, and I was taking in the experience and her energy, which is so beautiful. And she said, "Grandpa, the sky is awake, and the sun is awake, and we live on planet Earth." And that was it. She walked away. And I was profoundly touched by those 3 statements. Profoundly touched. Yeah, I don't know in her reasoning, rational mind what caused her to say those 3 statements. But for me, I thought, I'm really going to take this in because I just feel like I got a divine download from this 3-year-old. And 3-year-olds are great to get divine downloads from. The other thing she said to me several times during the passing of the days that we were together was, "Grandpa," out of nowhere she would say this, "you live in my heart." And so I said to her mom later on, I said, "That's so beautiful that you have taught her to say that we live in each other's hearts." And she said, "I didn't ever teach her that, and she has never said that to anybody." So it made it even more precious to me that she would say those words. But back to the sky is awake, the sun is awake, and we live on planet Earth. Now, if you can just really capture the fullness of those 3 statements right now in this moment, but especially when you first get up in the morning, the sky is alive. Have you ever really looked at the sky? I expect some of you have just looked at the sky and seen how incredibly alive it is at any time of day or night, but especially when a new day is dawning. It's amazing what goes on up there in the sky. It's awake. It's fully awake and it's fully alive. And the sun is awake. The sun is awake. The sun has come up again. Wow, wow, wow. What would you do if the sun decided not to wake up one morning? So can you really take in the gift of the sun being awake? The sun being a part of every turn of the 24-hour period in your life. The rising and the setting of the sun. It is miraculous, and if you really capture what's going on when that sun rises, I guarantee you there will be a lift in your step throughout the day. You'll be walking with a sense of confidence and a sense of appreciation and a sense of love that otherwise you would not have. And finally, the simple statement, which we all know, you say, "We live on planet Earth, big deal." I know that. We live on planet Earth. Check out planet Earth. It is an amazing planet to be occupying, number one. And the fact that we live on it, the fact that we walk around on it, the fact that we experience each other in the course of a day while we're on it, that's miraculous. Part of what happens to us as we especially continue our time period on this planet and in this lifetime is that we start just taking things for granted, my friends. And that's the benefit of having a young person in your life, is that they don't take it for granted. To her, it still is an amazing thing that the sun is coming up, that the sky is awake. It's an amazing thing to her when she studies all of these planets that we're on this one and that we're living on this one, that we're living a life on this one. So I invite you this new year to start to capture the things that maybe have gone unnoticed because you've become sort of numb to the miraculous nature of the life that we live. I often say, if you can raise your hand before your eyes and wiggle your fingers, can you do that right now? Do you realize how incredible that is? What in the world is taking place that is allowing you to move some kind of a signal from your mind to your brain into your fingertips and move them around, let alone when you're able to reach out and grasp someone or something? These are miracles. We just have to wake up to them. Being a morning person. And I want to tell you, if you're not a morning person, well, you're here at 9 o'clock on Sunday, so you must be somewhat of a morning person. But I used to be a night person. Most of my early life, at least, I was a night person because that's when things happened, was at night. And night is a wonderful time. I have nothing against night. It's just that I began to want so much to start my day on the right note that it was worth it to me to start getting up a little bit earlier and a little earlier and a little earlier, because I really like the idea of setting the tone for a day. And I find that if I can invest anywhere from 10 minutes to 60 minutes in the morning, which is really, if you think about the 24-hour period, it's not that much time. If I can invest anywhere between 10 and 60 minutes in the morning to set the tone for the day, then I find everything in my world, everything in my life begins to kind of flow out of that. You can make a huge difference every day of your life if you start the day on the right note. I love the words of Kent Nerburn when he says, and this is something I read to myself every morning when I get up, something is lost if we rush headlong into the details of life without pausing for a moment to pay homage to the mystery of life and the gift of another day. Now, I realize, my friends, that we live in a world that's telling us to go, 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 and do, do, do. And I was just telling Elizabeth this morning, I tend to be on the doing side, the going side. There is also this experience called being, in which you're really not doing anything, you're just allowing yourself to be. To be able to take the time in the morning before everything comes in on you and the demands of the day start to preoccupy your mind and your time and everything else, just take a moment to take a breath and just realize how blessed you are to live in this mysterious life of which we know precious little, although we like to think we know a lot. We know precious little. And the real gift it is just to be experiencing another day. This has become so important to me personally that I actually plan for it as I would plan for a special occasion in my life. Now, I find it interesting that when a new year comes along, even though the only difference is the duration of time, a new year comes along, we make all these preparations to get ready for New Year's Eve, and that evening all the festivities and all the parties and celebrations go on, which is wonderful. And then the new day comes, and we have plans for that day, and we're making resolutions, and we feel this wonderful sense of new beginning in our life, which is great. But I just proposed to you this morning that the same experience can happen to you not only once a year, but every single day. And it begins the night before the morning. It begins, for me anyway, by being aware that in a few hours after I go into a period of rest, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have a totally new experience in front of me out of which I can mold and make pretty much anything of my desire through the power of God working through me. So every day when I wake up, I'm going to have this exciting, infinite field of possibilities that are lying before me. I can do and be and experience anything I choose to do and be and experience. And I want to make sure that I realize that and appreciate that, so I actually start the night before. I get excited about the next day. And I encourage you to be conscious about this, because you're about to have another 24-hour period. You're about to experience another miraculous sunrise. And God knows what's going to happen to you in the course of the day, but it's all going to ultimately turn out to be a blessing for you. I guarantee you, especially if you get your consciousness, if you get your framework established first thing in the morning. So we start the evening before. Take a moment to look at the environment that you're going to wake up in. And even though some of us have difficulty maybe keeping our houses in order, just go around and make sure that it's an environment that you'd like to wake up in. If you'd like to wake up and have a quiet, contemplative moment, maybe you'd like a candle, a little incense, take the time the night before to do these favors so that when you wake up in the morning, you can wake up with a sense of ease, a sense of calm, and a sense of understanding your number one priority is to set the tone for your day. Also in the evening, it's a good idea to release. Charles Fillmore, in a pamphlet called A Sure Remedy, as the co-founder of Unity, told us we should never go to sleep at night without mentally reviewing the day and finding within ourselves a willingness to forgive anybody or anything that we feel has not worked in accord with our wishes, or maybe we didn't respond in the best way that we wanted to. Just take that time to release, to forgive, and to let go of whatever maybe didn't go as well as we would like for it to have gone during the course of the day. And finally, a time of thanksgiving. Just saying, thank you, God, for another day. The stage is set, and I'm ready to wake up in the morning. And for me personally, it also involves putting the coffee on the night before so that it's all ready. I want to wake up with a sense of ease and a sense of gratitude. I want to ask you a question this morning, and that is relevant to the experience I had with Ashlyn when she came up to me sleeping on that sofa. What is the first thing that goes into your head when you wake up in the morning? What is the first thing that goes into your head? Years ago, I used to sleep with the television on sometimes. And at that point, I had no idea or interest in what the first thing was going into my head. It was usually the morning news. And a lot of us are news junkies. We like to go turn on the TV or the radio right away and find out what's happening in the world. I mildly discourage you from doing that, simply because I have found that when you allow the first thing to come into your mind or into your consciousness to be the reports of the three-dimensional world outside of you, it's usually troubling. Not always, but oftentimes. Instead, make a decision to yourself that you're going to be totally conscious of the manner in which you wake when you get up in the morning. There are 4 different statements that I read to myself when I get up in the morning, and I'm not trying to give you my recipe here. I'm just giving you some ideas, because what I really want you to do is establish a morning ritual for yourself. And it has to be something that you yourself create based on things that really stir your soul. But the first thing that goes into my head when I get up in the morning is the statement from A Course in Miracles, which has become a profound relief in my life experience. It's this: what could you not accept if you but knew that all events, past, present, and to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? Do you believe that? Do you believe that even when the chips are down and it seems like things are not going your way? That still the presence and the power of God is gently planning all events, past, present, and those yet to come, designed in a way that's going to bring forth your good. It brings peace because it helps me to realize that even on those mornings when I wake up perhaps feeling as though I didn't do something as well as I wanted to, or I missed an opportunity to express something I needed to express, or I messed up on anything, I let it go. Because it was the way it was, and I believe that the events, all of the events of my life are being orchestrated by a higher presence and power that loves me. And it gives me great confidence to walk out into the world knowing, even though from my human judgment I might not have liked the way things transpired, from the spiritual perspective, everything happens exactly the way it needs to, and it's all building step by step toward your greater good. The second thing I read to myself when I get up in the morning is this: today I choose to see and experience everyone and everything for the first time. You remember a few weeks back when I was standing up here with that poinsettia and I just stared it in the face, and I was so amazed by everything I saw because I just pretended, that's all you have to do is pretend, that you ain't never seen nothing before. And this especially regards people in your life, people who have histories with you that you have found to be unpleasant. Doesn't mean that you have to walk blindly into your world. It just means I'm willing in this moment to see you for the first time as though I've never seen you before. I'm willing to, like a child, look at things with a fresh and new perspective and not bring the judgments and experiences of my past and lay them over this present moment. Because when I do that, I obscure my ability to see God's perfect kingdom, God's presence and power in each and every moment, and I assure you, my friends, it's there. The next thing I like to read to myself is, this is God's day, and it is His responsibility to govern it. That's from one of my favorites, Joel Goldsmith. It's God's responsibility to govern your life. It is God's responsibility to govern the lives of those you love. It is God's responsibility to govern the well-being of humanity on this planet and life throughout the cosmos. It is not your responsibility. You're not. You can trust that. This is God's universe. This is God's world. And God knows what God is doing when it comes to governing what is happening. And finally, I say this to myself: everything in my life, every experience, every relationship is a mirror of the mental pattern that is going on inside of me. What that does is it causes me first thing in the morning to completely remove the wicked finger of blame, shame, and guilt from the broadcast of characters that occupy space in my world. I'm not going to hold you or anybody else responsible for my experience, because my experience is based on a dynamic. It's based on something that's going on right up here in my own consciousness. Remember, that's where all the filters exist, whereby you interpret what happens to you. There's what is happening to you, which is always the goodness of God, and then there's your interpretation of what is happening to you, and that is always based on the filters that you have placed in terms of wanting to put responsibility for your life outside of yourself. The next thing I do rather religiously is I keep a book, and many of you know all of this actually is in something I call the morning book, which is just a book that I can turn the pages on that's self-created, but it puts all these practices in place. It's a gratitude list. Never, ever, ever walk out the door of your home in the morning until you have written down no less than 5 things that you are grateful for. And I don't care if you can't think of anything, you can repeat whatever you listed yesterday. But you put 5 things down on that piece of paper that you are grateful for, a minimum of 5. Why is this? Because gratitude is the greatest generator of prosperity, goodness, abundance, light, love, harmony, and good health that you will ever encounter. A grateful heart is the most powerful tool that you can carry into this world every day. I always like then to take a moment of prayer, and for me, it actually involves beginning with my family and close associates, people here at Unity on the Bay, whose pictures I keep in front of me. And I look at each picture of these people. I look at the pictures of my children, the picture of my mother. I look at the picture of the staff here at Unity on the Bay. I have one of you and me, Elizabeth, that I just treasure. I look at these pictures, and as I'm looking at these pictures, I just allow a sense of blessing and of goodness and of light and love to go to each of these individuals. And if they have particular prayer needs at that point, I'll bring that to mind too. Once I have finished that process, I move into what I call the experience of communion. And for a lot of you, you know that I see communion and prayer as different. Prayer is more where I'm actually bringing conscious thoughts of individuals and situations to mind to ask for God's blessing. Communion, I don't think about anything. I just go into the still, silent spaces of my soul. I give my mind a break. I put it on hold. I'm not interested in thinking about anyone or anything except the presence and the power of God. And after many years of this practice, and it has been many years, I'm actually to the point now where pretty quickly I can move into that what I call the empty zone, where there's nothing going on inside of me except stillness and silence. It is always in those moments that I receive the most profound instruction and guidance for my life. And I can't even tell you that it comes in the form of words. It just simply shows up. From communion, I move into the experience of reviewing my vision and my mission, and we talk about these things all the time in Unity. A vision is simply, as Michael Beckwith puts it, the asking of four questions. The first one is, what is God's vision for my life? The second one is, what can I release to help bring that vision into my daily experience and reality? What do I need to embody in order to bring that vision into reality? And what are the gifts that I have been given by my Creator in order to manifest that vision in my world? So it's a vision statement, not unlike the statement that we use here at Unity on the Bay. We are a prosperous, expanding spiritual community of God's light, love, and peace, radiating the unity message globally. The vision is always something that's a little bit bigger than you can get your arms around because it's what you're aspiring toward. And then your mission statement becomes the statement or the mechanism through which you accomplish your vision. And if you want to know how to create a mission statement for your life, you simply ask 3 questions. What do I do? How do I do it? And for whom do I do it? What is it that you do? What's your purpose for being on this life? How do you do it? What's the manner in which you accomplish it? And for whom do you do it? And at Unity on the Bay, as you know, we have a mission statement. We move from that arena into values and intentions. I used to keep values and intentions separated, but somewhere in the last year I combined them because I realized that the way that I achieve my intentions is by first examining my values, what it is that I value. And remember, there's what you say you value, and then there's what you really value. You know, I can say, well, I value unconditional love, but then I can go out and be a so-and-so to all these people, and they don't have any awareness of that value within me at all. So there's what you'd like to be living, there's the value you'd like to be living out of, and then there's the value that you are, in fact, living out of. And I always say, if you want to know the real values in life, look at your calendar and look at your checkbook. You will find out where your resources of time and money are going, and that will be a quick revelation to you as to the reality of your values, no matter what you espouse to the world. What I've done is I've tried to take the values and use them as the framework by which I establish intentions for my life. The values for me are spiritual awareness, self-care, and health, and these are pretty much in priority of their importance to me personally. Harmonious and loving relationships, a rewarding career, financial well-being, and relaxation and fun. That is, of course, my favorite. It's also the one I have the most difficulty fulfilling because I'm such a doer that sometimes I can't just kick back and have a good time. But I'm working with that one. Go into each of these categories, or however you categorize the priorities of your values, and decide what it is that you would like to intend for yourself. I used to set goals, and I used to have very fixed and defined pathways toward those goals, toward their achievement. I don't do that anymore because once I realized that I'm not in charge of my life and I really don't know what's going on, I'm better off to set intentions and allow the presence and power of God to weave its way into those intentions and find that they always draw their own manifestation toward them, which is really an effortless process as opposed to me trying to go out and make something happen in the world. Another important morning process can be the act of journaling, which is actually you're just keeping a little diary of your own thoughts, emotions, and experiences, especially any spiritual insights that may come to you. You'll find that by logging these things into a journal, you come to the end of the year, you look back, and you're really going to be able to appreciate the content of that year because you will have captured the victories and even the apparent tragedies, and hopefully been able to see how the goodness of God emerges through not only the good times in your life, but the challenging ones as well. Next, take just a moment to visualize your day, which is simply closing your eyes. You know what you have to do today. Right now in this moment, you could close your eyes. You have a list of activities. You have a calendar. You have some idea of what this day is going to hold for you. Just take a moment to visualize yourself going through those various activities and doing it with a sense of calm, peace, and poise, and confidence. And see your success coming forth in everything that you're engaged in today. That really takes just a moment, but it sets the pace for your day. So I'm just here this morning to tell you 3 things again that were shared to me by a great mentor and guru in my life, and that is this. The sky is awake. The sun is awake. And we live. Wow. We live on planet Earth, my friends. And we're awake. So I say to you, not only Happy New Year, and I do say that from the bottom of my heart. I think 2014 is going to be a great year for all of us. But I also say, Happy New Day. Happy New Day. And that's this day right now. Every day, remember, my friends, contains the gift of an entire lifetime. Go out of this place today and live a lifetime like you have never lived it before. Take the time to smell the roses. Take the time to be aware of what's happening to you and in you and through you. Take the time to appreciate the leaves on the tree, the individual blades of grass as they come out of seemingly nowhere to bless the soles of your feet. Take the time to appreciate the fact that you are living in a part of the country that is warmer than anywhere else on earth right now. Whatever it is, just take the time. Be grateful. Never, ever allow a moment of your eternal life to go by unnoticed, and you will begin to see your eyes, your vision, your capacity open up to experience the blessings of God throughout 2014 and far beyond. God bless you. I love you, and Happy New Year.